So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. I am your host, Adam Lopez, and today, believe it or not, for my very first guest, I'm very honored and humbled to have not only my friend, but he is the chief of police for the city of Oxnard, and I want to welcome Chief Scott Whitney this morning to the show.
Thank you, Adam. How are you, brother?
I am doing great. First of all,
Good.
I want to thank you for accepting the invitation for this new episodes of 10-minute candid conversations that we're having. But first and foremost, I want to ask you, Chief, how is your family? How are you and your family doing, especially during this pandemic?
Good. Yeah, we're hanging in there. There's pluses and minuses, and I'm always the type of person that tries to focus in on the positive, right? So, my oldest daughter just recently out of college. She was laid off because of the pandemic. She got her job back. So that's good. My son is first year up in college, so even though it's virtual, he's doing it. He decided to move up there, so that's pretty cool. And then my youngest daughter is, school at home, and she's luckily for us, she's in high school, and so I think it's a little easier for them than the younger kids. So it's all good.
And that's, the father at home. But being the chief, I'm sure you also feel like you are the father to over 200 officers, right? And so, how does that differentiate? How do you manage being the chief and telling your officers, hey, we're considered essential, so we don't get time off, we don't get to stay home in quarantine? How has it been? I guess the environment, the impact with your officers during this entire pandemic.
Yeah, good question, and that's you made a good point right off the bat. I'm kind of like the father of
Mm.
not only 235 officers, but 150 civilian employees. So nearly 400 employees here that I take that responsibility very seriously. We're not going to be reckless, and we're not going to take any chance on any employees needlessly getting the COVID virus. So early on in March, we went on the offensive. We took precautions. We took measures. We limited the number of contacts within the community. We limited the number of discretionary meetings. Essentially, those stopped happening with the exception of kind of Zoom. We limited the number of people that come into the station. For the most part now, it's
Yeah.
just officers and it's arrestees, so you're either an employee or you're an arrestee. Otherwise, you're really not coming into the station. We limited the number of traffic stops. So it's limited just to dangerous drivers, DUI drivers, distracted drivers. We're not doing the lower level enforcement. There's plenty of other other measures we took. One thing in particular, I told my family early on, my kids, etc. Um, I said, your dad has a very important job. I
Yeah.
cannot afford to get sick.
Yeah.
So we all have this responsibility within the family as well as within the workforce that we have to be cautious during these times. So
Thank you for explaining that, because sometimes we don't get that side of the story where, you're essential workers, uh, and you still have to be out there, risk and
yeah,
exposing your officers one, and then you have to face arrestees, and you have to respond to emergencies that might, expose even further with, a lot of other stuff. But
yep.
I want to shift gears a little bit here, Chief. Chief and I have worked in multiple projects and initiatives together, not only for the city of Oxnard, but Ventura County as a whole, homelessness, the faith community. You know that our church is in El Rio, and I'm the community liaison for our church, and we've done so many great things. But I wanted to ask you something specific, Chief, because I want the audience to understand this. You've taken a different approach, which I think is admirable and is very remarkable, is the community engagement part of things. You literally, you walk your talk, and you go out there and you visited churches, and you visit the juvenile hall, and you talk to youth, and you go out to the dangerous streets of the city, and you want to connect with these people. Why did you take this approach? With, I think it's working for you, but unlike your predecessors, which were great individuals, by the way, it wasn't really like that. So what made you take that approach, and do you think it's having a lasting effect on your officers as well?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, Adam. We look at every single opportunity as an opportunity for a positive contact, a positive engagement. I learned early on working at I was one of the first officers to work the Colonial storefront in 1992. And when I hired on, I thought the job was one thing, which was chasing the bad guys. And it was the good guys against the bad guys. You know, it's kind of, I'm simplifying it, but
Yeah.
I got the assignment at the Colonial storefront. We started doing foot patrols every single day, talking to businesses, talking to residents. And I learned early on the value of those relationships, the value of those positive contacts. That means that trust and respect of the police department is that much more important. And if our residents know who the officer is that's working their beat, they're more likely to feel relaxed and comfortable, and they're more likely to feel safe. And our clearance rates on violent crime have never been higher. On homicides, our clearance rates are above 100%, and we've never been higher. And I attribute that to the good work of our officers and the good relationships that we have with our community.
No, well, thank you for that, Chief. I think it's important. It's great. And I think it's done. It's had a significant impact, you know, with our city, with our leaders. But now let's talk really briefly before we end this episode. I want to talk to you about the interfaith council that we have created. I say we because you and I and other key leaders have co-chaired this council. You know, why is it important, Chief? Why has it been important to gather all denominations? Why is this important for you, and why did you really push this?
So when we look at communities, we all know we have assets and liabilities. Oftentimes people look at cities from like what's needed, where are the deficits, and as government we try to fill the gaps. And that means we don't focus enough on the assets, the positive. What are the good things that we have in our community? Who are the good people that are doing positive things in our community? And when you look at our faith community, that is one of the biggest assets in many communities that is untapped. Why don't we bring them all together and you know, work toward a positive end for the community, instead of all of these entities doing positive things kind of in silos? If we work together, we can accomplish so much more. So many people want to help. They want to do good things. They're just not quite sure where I can help. You know, one example, earlier in the year, we had the Oxnard Together event, and the idea was, let's bring the faith community together to work toward doing something positive toward homelessness. Shortly after I became chief, immigration was a big issue.
Right.
And in policing, all police officers, chiefs know, we've never been involved in California. We've never been in the business of immigration enforcement. But suddenly people, that became an issue. You know, is your local community afraid of the police? Our local community, in regards to immigration or whatever, they're not afraid of us. But that became a narrative, and it becomes a narrative. Sometimes people believe it. We were just doing like our part, stepping up, provide service, but the connection that they get, it's, you know, in some ways it's so basic on our end, but we're maybe exceeding the expectations on the other end. So it's just good work, and it's basic stuff.
Well, you know, the power of unity, solidarity with our city, and we're definitely moving to a better future for the city of Oxnard. And we have one of the finest police departments, you know, in the state, in the country. And I stand behind you. So I want to thank you again, tell your entire department that we appreciate you.
I've never told you this, but one of my tricks is I get invited a lot of invitations. Lots of opportunities to meet people. I try to use my time as wisely as I can, whether it's on social media, Zoom, whatever it is now. And so I pick and choose, and you're one of those persons that I know is doing positive things in our community. And that's why I was looking forward to this invitation. So thank you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. And you've been watching the very first episode of Candid Conversation with Adam Lopez. Until next time, and stay tuned. Thank you.